Tonight, the Teen Titans try their hand at being a Robin War tie-in, but they can't even get that much right. Cyborg understands that his humanity may be important, but brand recognition will be forever. And it's just not Christmas unless a giant nun is stomping through Gotham fighting against God's spirit of vengeance. All that and more tonight on the Not-So-New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 225 of the Not So New 52. I am your host, and if you tuned into last week's episode, you may have remembered that I was coming down with a little bit of sniffles, a little bit of a sore throat, a little bit of a cough and a sneeze. I survived. I lived, bitch. No, I had a horrible week. I had an absolutely on my ass, feeling awful, and on top of that, because of other shows I do and other things I do, I also had to sit through Avatar 3. I say sit through, not because it was a bad movie inherently, I liked it, but I was on death's door pretty much the entire time. So the fact that it managed to magically cure itself just in time for me to record this episode, I will be counting my blessings. I'm very happy to have that happen. Do you care about any of this? No, of course not. But it's my show, and I only got 25 episodes left in it, so whatever. I'm just going to say what I want to say. Speaking of which, 25 more episodes to go. I think last episode I said 26 more episodes to go, because that's half a year, but 25 is a nice round number. And I can say the exact same stuff again, and I'm just going to keep on saying it until we hit the end of the show. So, yeah. Only other thing, before I get into the comics, is it is technically the week of Christmas. Feliz Navidad and all that stuff. I'm very busy this time of year, but I will always make time for this show, mainly because I'm so close to the end. You think I'm going to miss an episode now? Christ, I'd rather die, which, again, was close to. Anyway, I am rambling like crazy because, frankly, it's an average week. I got 12 comics to talk about. A couple of them are event books, a couple of them are whatever, but like, it's not a whole lot happening right now. It's very much a keeping the status quo going kind of thing. So let me just tell you the comics that are going to be in this episode, and you can pick and choose whatever you want to listen to. So we've got, in alphabetical order, Aquaman, Cyborg, Deathstroke, Gotham by Midnight, Justice League 3001, Justice League of America, Robin, Son of Batman, Sinestro, Superman, Teen Titans, Titans Hunt, and our weekly series of Batman and Robin Eternals. So the only things to mention out of that I think are worth noting, Gotham by Midnight is the final issue of that series. We are wrapping that one up. Cyborg is the end of that arc. Superman, same thing, end of that arc. And Robin, Son of Batman, and Teen Titans are both a actual part of and a tie-in to Robin War, respectively. So, you know, we got a myriad of things. We got a bunch of stuff going on, but nothing that's actually like too big. It's just Robin War. Like that's the lowest possible big thing I could think of. So, the comics. Robin, Son of Batman number 7, written by Patrick Gleason and Ray Fawkes, art by Scott McDaniel. So this is the next part of Robin War. I think technically the last part that's like in the main line, but there are other tie-ins. Previously was Detective Comics, and in that we had all of the Robins, including the We Are Robin kids, and then Red Hood, Red Robin, and Robin, escaping from their cage cell things, and then immediately coming across a whole bunch of talons from the Court of Owls. So this picks up where one of the kids, Rico, freaks out, saying like, oh no, it's the Talons, I'm very aware of the Court of Owls and the nursery rhyme and whatever else. But everyone else is like, all right, well, we're gonna have to fight, let's do it. So they all jump in while she's just kind of cowering over in the corner. Fight goes basically as well as you can expect. Some of them get their asses handed to them. The more trained Robins put up more of a fight. Eventually we see they manage to like break one of their wrists and then also snap his neck, and them being Talons, their whole thing is that they can heal from anything, and they are essentially undead zombies. So they just snap their necks back into place, and it's like, you can't win. We're unstoppable. We can do anything, and we have just hatched tonight in order for the baptism of the Gray Sun. And then Robin, a couple of the kids get thrown down, and Damian looks down and just like, all right, well, I know what we have to do. Everyone brace yourselves. And he dives over towards some highly flammable barrels on top of this place. A Talon scratches at him, and the whole thing goes kaboom. Meanwhile, we cut over to Councilwoman Nachwa, who is being, I'm going to say, blackmailed by a Court of Owls member who basically says, look, we need you to send Batman to this location right now, or else we're going to withdraw your application to the Court of Owls, and you got to do it, and you can't say no. And they're like, all right, fine, whatever. So she calls up and says, Batman, it's an emergency. You got to do this thing. So we then go down into the labyrinth of the Court of Owls, which I guess anyone can go to any time now. And there's a couple of goons and a Talon that Grayson is fighting. And he's like, shut up, you guys are doing the whole thing of like, oh yes, you, Grayson, you are doomed, blah blah. Shut up, I just want some answers. That's all I want from you, okay? Are you gonna take me to whoever's in charge of this? And he's like, oh yes, he awaits you, Gray Son, all you had to do was ask. So we go back over to the rest of the Robins. The roof caves in because of the explosion. A bunch of the Robins end up landing on top of the cages, whereas the Talons fall the whole way to the ground. So they have a little bit of an upper hand here. And then Rico, who comes to her senses, says, wait a minute, hold on. I recognize the Talon now. I saw them, or at least one of them, at Gotham Academy, over in the Gotham Academy tie-in. And I think it's Damian's like, oh, that makes sense. It's the oldest school in Gotham. It would make sense that the Court of Owls has a foothold there. So at that point, Damian just bounces. He just leaves, and they figure like, yeah, okay, he probably went off to do something regarding Grayson or whatever, because they made the point earlier saying they said they got hatched tonight and they said Grayson, so it's all coming together in that sort of way. But Red Hood and Red Robin are left behind to basically tell all the We Are Robin kids like, hey, go home. Well, you're not going to win this fight. You got to get it. This is dangerous for you kids. And the kids are like, but what if we want to fight? What if we want to do this? And Duke has the audacity to stand up and say, we want you to fight. That's what we want. But you guys need to be trained. And the training will continue after we're done with this event. And all the kids like walk away. Mind you, Duke's one of those kids. He's one of them. But I guess he's considered himself a little above because he's part of this elite group that Red Robin and Red Hood have chosen out. So collectively, all of the main core We Are Robin kids make their way over to Gotham Academy. They go into the greenhouse, which is the last place that they saw the Talon at, and they go down into a hole inside of one of the garden beds. And as they make their way down in there, they hear little mumblings and murmurings from people saying, oh yes, the plan, the Gray Sun, the councilwoman, blah, blah, blah. And when they make their way in, they hear, now that he's joined, and they're like, oh, did Grayson betray us? Is this a whole thing? Like, what happened here? So they end up looking down through some vent up in the roof, and they see, I'm going to call it, it looks like a tree, but it has like a bunch of pods connected to it, and it's all technological. And they're like, okay, well, that clearly holds like their Talons that are being hatched. We've established that their elite Talons are being hatched. It's from this. And before they can do anything, wall blows up over on the side. Jim Gordon in the Batsuit comes in, and he's like, they're all under arrest. So then the Robins jump into play as well. And it's just pandemonium. It's a whole thing. But Red Robin points out, hey, you got to destroy the center tree thing. It's where all the Talons are being hatched from. And he's like, all right. And he fires off 2 missiles at it, blows them up. One of the Talons manages to pop out of his thing, his pod, and grab a hold of Duke, in which Rico jumps in and grabs like a rebar pipe and just stabs her through the Talon's wrist. So she gets over her fear of the Talons and she comes in to save the day. And then as everyone's taken down, Gordon's like, all right, well, this place is full of terrorists and you guys are also breaking the law, so maybe you should leave because the terrorists are all I was really looking for. And they're like, okay. So then we go over to Grayson, who is led into a back room in the Court of Owls labyrinth, and in there is Lincoln March. For anyone who's unfamiliar with Lincoln March, it's complicated. So he's the leader of the Court of Owls at this point, and Grayson's like, all right, whatever this is, You're just doing the plan to bring me back into your fold again. That was literally the first arc. Come up with something more original. And he's like, oh, Grayson, hey, you figured out about the councilwoman thing. That's, clever. You did good. Good job. And he's like, what, are you trying to get on my good side? You think you're just going to, like, give me compliments and I'm going to join into your Court of Owls thing again? Clearly, that's not how it's going to happen. And we get another thing of the kids walking through sewers and stuff as Lincoln continues talking. And he's like, oh, no, the original plan, the starting plan was, yeah, you are the gray son of Gotham. We want you in and we want to do that stuff. But plan changed. Don't need you anymore. And he throws his wine into Grayson's face, which apparently was acid, I guess. And he's like, oh, do you want to guess why we don't need you? While you could just straight up die now. We don't care. It's because we got a better offer. And it cuts to what the kids are seeing down in the sewer. It's a bunch of Talons, and standing in front, wearing a Court of Owls mask, is Damian. He's now the gray son, whatever that means. Yeah, I will say a thing that I've been very critical on with this event is that it doesn't feel like any of the individual parts have a forward motion. It feels like every single one of them basically just ends more or less in the same place where they began, with a very, very, very small change on top of it. This is the first time I feel like there's actually something. This is the first time where if you look at how the issue began and how the issue ended here, there's significant changes that have been made. Mind you, it's the second to last part, so riding the lightning a little bit there, but I liked it. I liked the way it was done. I will say for this book in particular, Robin, Son of Batman, I'm so used to Patrick Gleason's art that seeing Scott McDaniel doing it feels weird. It doesn't feel right, but it is fine. It is fine enough art in its own right. So I don't know. Collectively, I think I enjoyed the issue more than I didn't enjoy it. I'd say it's probably I'll give it a high 7.5. I don't think it's quite at the 8, but it's definitely one of the better issues of the Robin War event, whatever that means. Teen Titans number 15, written by Scott Lobdell and Will Pfeifer, art by Ian Churchill and Miguel Mendonça. So, Robin War tie-in. It's seemingly a little important, maybe. It does something, I'll say that much. So last issue, the story happened, whatever you want to call that, and then all of a sudden we just said, oh, now we're doing Robin War. So this issue picks up with Beast Boy doing a news reporter impression. Apparently he's going to try out to be a TV anchor, and he basically is just giving the rundown of, for anyone who wasn't reading Robin War, here's what's going on. And you don't need to know much of anything except that Red Robin told the Teen Titans to chill out, and then he went off and he got himself caught up in a whole thing involving Court of Owls stuff. So we see Raven, Power Girl, Bunker, and Beast Boy are all chilling in the Robin's nest, and Power Girl's like, why are you guys joking around? We were told to keep an eye on things. There's like a lot of cameras in here. Does anyone feel weird that Tim Drake has all that power? And they're like, whatever, he's a good guy. Surveillance is okay for good guys. And then Raven's like, hold on, everyone. There's a bad thing here in Gotham, and it has nothing to do with Robin War. We got to go deal with that. It's using the word perfection over and over. Then we go to outside of Gotham City, where Kid Flash, Chimera, Wonder Girl, and I'm going to say Riser because I still think he doesn't have a good name, but it's Doomed, the Doomsday thing. They're all at like this massive ass mansion, and Riser's like, oh, hey, it's great you could get this place, Wonder Girl. How'd you get it? And she's like, I stole stuff. And somehow that means that this person's willing to lend their house to me. So we see that someone's trying to break in. Spoiler alert, it's spoiler. Like, it absolutely, like, it has to be. They don't say it in this issue, but it is. We then go and do Gotham, where we see that this is taking place right after the most recent issue of Robin, Son of Batman, where they all broke out of the cages that they were kept in, and they're running down the street. And Red Robin and Red Hood have a little thing of like, we shouldn't let them fight, they're untrained, and then Red Hood says they deserve to be able to fight, we were untrained. So regardless, as they make their way down, a cop gets in their way, and that's a problem because all Robins can be arrested on sight. So then we go back over to the bunker plot. He's and the rest of the crew have arrived at this place that Raven feels is bad, and it turns out it's like a theater that's showing, as far as I can tell, a parody of School of Rock. And they're like, wow, this show sucks. And I'm like, all right, buddy, you write something better. So as they go inside backstage, they see that there is a ton of practically identical people all wearing like purple and white like tutus. And they're all just like hideously malformed, but all in like the same way. And they're all standing there zombified, and they're like, oh no, what happened here? And Raven's like, oh, they've been drugged, and horrible things have happened here, and they didn't do this to themselves. It's this horrible sadness. They're prisoners in their own body, turned into the image of a madman. And they said, well, let's go deal with the madman, because if we're in a theater, I'm willing to bet he's center stage. So they go out from backstage, and there's a bunch of medical gurneys up on the stage, and we find out the person doing this, who's got a young woman on the table that he's operating on, is Professor Pig. He's doing his Dollatron thing. So immediately the Titans leap in and they're like, screw this guy. We don't even know his deal, but like, we're going to straight up attack him. However, all the Dollatrons are programmed to attack them so that Pig can continue his work. And they're like, we can't punch them. They're innocent people under it. What do we do? And they quickly get overrun. We then go back to the cop, who two of the We Are Robin kids just jump in and tackle the cop. He fires off a shot, which nicks one of them in the arm, and they just brush that right off. And then Red Robin and Red Hood look at each other being like, okay, baby, they need more training. So we see that all of the other Titans come to in Professor Pig's clutches, and they're all woozy. They're all like, what happened? What's going on? And the young woman in the background, she's like coughing up something. She looks horrible. And then as they look up, they see that Beast Boy is being hung from the rafters, and he's having his blood drained, not only into a bucket, but also transfused into this young woman. Bunker gets so pissed off that he immediately breaks out of his things and goes to attack Pig. But then we see Pig gets hit from behind by a green hand. It's not Beast Boy. It's this young woman who, because of the blood transfusion, is now transformed into some sort of a mix of a manatee, a gorilla, and a snake. And it ain't going well. So she's just completely lost in the sauce. She doesn't know what's going on. She starts attacking Bunker. But obviously Bunker doesn't want to punch back. She's an innocent. So Power Girl manages to grab her, and she's huge. That's her whole thing, is growing big now. And she just like pushes her down into the stage and is just like, you got to calm down. You got to stop. Raven comes in and starts clearing up her psychic whatever. We then have Bunker go up to the rafters and say, guys, I don't know how to... Beast Boy's not doing much better. Like, they're both messed up really, really bad. And then we flip the page, and the woman is turned back to normal, and Beast Boy is fine. It's one page. It's not even... Like, nothing changes here. So either way, yeah, she's gone through trauma or whatever, but they're like, okay, no, Professor Pig managed to escape, and we don't know where he would have went to, but we're going to stay here and help you out, and don't worry, the damage isn't permanent to either of you. So Power Girl comes to the conclusion, after she feels like some tingling in her arm, that all of them had their blood drained for whatever reason. We then go over to Gotham Academy, which is also where the Robin Son of Batman tie-in happened. We see a bunch of security guards are guarding the place where they need to go for the event to happen, and literally nothing happens. Apparently there's a bunch of people who are ready to jump them for hiding behind in the woods. That doesn't happen at the tie-in, so I really don't know where they're getting that from. And then the final thing is we see Professor Pig is on a rowboat in Gotham Harbor. He makes his way underneath a bridge, and he talks to this mysteriously shadow figure who's like, did you bring it? And he's like, Red Robin wasn't there, but I got the blood from all the other ones, all the superpowered ones, especially Beast Boy, which you specifically requested. And stepping out of the darkness is Brother Blood, who says, nice. So I feel like we did this plot back in Ravagers, didn't we? Wasn't that a thing where there was Brother Blood and he was after Beast Boy's stuff? Like, I swear I remember that already being a thing. But okay, whatever. We want to double dip, we can double dip. Why did we show the mansion stuff where all the other Titans are hiding? I mean, is that going to be a thing that's going to come back? I just turned the next page into the next issue. No, it isn't. Also, this doesn't feel like it really fits with what we saw happen in Robin, Son of Batman, where this issue kind of works in between. During like the Gotham Academy tie-in, and I'm struggling to remember what the other tie-in was, whichever one it was, both of them worked because they played at the bits that weren't part of the story. But this one, I guess, was kind of deadlocked because you have Red Robin. Like, you can't dance around the other part of the story because he's in all of the story. So I kind of get it, but at the same point, it just feels like a weird tie-in then because it's not actually fitting into the continuity at all. Beyond that, it's kind of just mid. It doesn't make me as angry as previous issues does, but you get that sort of continuity stuff where it's like, oh no, Beast Boy's not going to be okay. Oh wait, never mind, he's fine. Don't worry. We just wanted you to be worried for that one page, and then we flip the page and don't worry about it no more. So yeah, 6. It's not the worst this book has been, not by far, but it's not great either. It's a 6. JLA number 6, written and art by Brian Hitch. So last issue was a Martian Manhunter one-shot that kind of had nothing to do with anything, except tie into Martian Manhunter, the larger book. The issue before that, however, was Superman and pretty much everybody realizing, oh wait, Rao sucks. Rao's evil. Who would have guessed? So Aquaman opens up this issue down in Atlantis. He's talking to one of Rao's disciples, the main guys, and he's like, get out, leave. I shouldn't have let you in. I was a bit too accepting there. You're taking over stuff. Just leave. Get out of here. And these guys like, your people believe in Rao now. They belong to him. This is I don't get to leave here. And Aquaman just picks him up and like punches him. And then all of his people start swarming Aquaman. And he's like, what are you? Stop it. So we then cut over to Themyscira, where all of Rao's disciples are firing on the Themyscirans, and they're trying to triangulate something. They're trying to set up some triangulation to do something. So once it's set up, it's like, all right, the signal's strong, preparing for the transfer. So we go to the Fortress of Solitude while Superman is just beating down all like a whole horde of disciples, and he looks over at Rao and is like, "At the best you got." And then Rao just punches him out like into space, like super far into the Arctic. And it takes like a good 4 pages or so of just fighting and Rao just laying the smack down until finally it comes over Superman's body and he's like, really wish you would have just believed, man. So I don't recall us getting any storyline about what the hell happened to Barry Allen. He was with Hal, and then he disappeared off an alien planet. Turns out he shows up in the Infinity Corporation building back in 1961. And as he wakes up there, he's like, where am I? And they're like, oh, Infinity Corp. And then he just immediately runs around. And the workers there, including, I'm sure he has a name, Vincent, and also there's Jane Jones. They start running after. Turns out he's in the room with the Stones of Forever, as they're calling them. Same stones as the ones at the beginning of the series. And Flash is able to pick up that the stones are giving off feelings of sadness and loss and pain. And he's like, okay, well, here's the deal, guys. I'm guessing that you all, collectively, the Infinity Corporation, are the ones that sent these invites that had us fighting against Parasite. You know our secret identities. Give me one reasons I shouldn't have you all locked up now. Are you bad guys? And they're like, no. Look, we're just trying to... Okay. Crisis. And he's like, God damn it. So it turns out that they have seen that there is a crisis coming that is going to destroy Forever. And then Flash says, a forever crisis? Yeah, that's where we're going with this. So apparently the Stones know about it, and Flash is like, okay, well, why the invitations? What were you doing there? And Vincent's like, look, it's a thread. Like, there's tiny little things that we were pulling on here, but we can't see the whole tapestry. We don't have the full picture. So we're just pulling on all these tiny little threads, like Parasite, Justice League, Superman's death. And Flash is like, what about Superman's death? It's like, don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you. Superman's death. And we're all just trying to like figure out how they interconnect to make the larger picture here. And he's like, okay, well, I ended up here after being on an alien planet with Green Lantern. Was that a coincidence? Like, was that like what? By the way, you told me it's the Infinity Corporation. What year am I in? They're like 1961. Also Chicago. And it's like, okay, fair enough. The Stones can do time stuff. So at that point, he says, look, we got to get the others together and we'll work it out. That's how we always do it. But I got to get back to the future to do that. And they say, all right. So we then cut to Olympus, which is where Wonder Woman's been hanging out. And it's just kind of the ruins of Olympus. It's just a dark and dismal area. And she's talking to someone. I don't remember if it was ever specifically said. And they're like, yeah, all the other gods bailed. You're the only ones left because the god of war is always needed. Like, you always are going to have to stick around here. But Olympus is yours now. You can do whatever. You are Olympus. And then all of a sudden she hears something. She hears something from behind her. We cut over to Atlantis where they're doing their triangulation thing. They've got the love of Rao and they're setting up whatever doorway. And then all of a sudden Aquaman's like, are you going to destroy Atlantis? That's kind of, it happens a lot. I'm not going to let you do that. And she's like, what? No, we're just going to ensure that Rao is the one true God here on Earth. And Aquaman's like, that doesn't sound better. So he breaks free of all of his people, goes over to attack the disciple, and then the doorway is opened. So they fall through and they end up in Olympus. And Aquaman's like, oh, hey, are we in Olympus? What? It looks like crap. And she's like, yeah, it's a thing. Who are these people? Like, oh, these are the prophets of Rao. And it's like, Rao? Like Superman's god? And Aquaman's like, yeah, it turns out he's a dick. She's like, oh, well, how's Clark doing? He's like, I don't know. I wasn't in the plot that long. So the prophets start freaking out. They're just like, all right, everybody, give your lives to Rao. And then they all say, we give our lives to Rao. And then there's a giant, supermassive, like supernova explosion in Olympus. And it blows everything away. Double page spread. And then we go to Green Lantern. Krypton, 250,000 years ago. Rao is being led by his people on a big chair thing. And he's like, hey, Green Lantern, I had a messenger. We are going to get into the Citadel peacefully. And Hal's like, okay, fine, cool, whatever. And he's like, well, what's bugging you, buddy? You seem weird. And he's like, you extended your own lifespan by taking the lives of your followers. That seems messed up. That's against, like, natural stuff. And he's like, hey, I am the one who ended all of these like massive wars and stuff like that. They lose maybe a few years and I live a few years more. It's worth it to keep the order. They all know what they're doing. Everything's good. And he's like, well, did you make them? And it's like, make them? No, it's a gift. Hey, look, we're at the Citadel. So they get up there and he basically tells his whole army, like, you all stay back. This is a peace envoy. We're going to go up in there. And they walk up to the guard, and he's like, oh, Dwalu, why have you abandoned me? And he's like, oh, I haven't. Go on in. You'll see the truth of what's inside. And as they get there, Hal's ring is finally like, oh, hey, I figured out where that temporal disturbance is. And he's like, oh, what are the odds? And then the ring's like, calculate. He's like, no, shut up. Sarcasm. So as they get inside, they look in, and Hal's like, okay. And turns out, inside of this random temple on Krypton 250,000 years ago is the Infinity Corporation building. And that's where we leave off. What does it mean? What's the larger storyline at play? I don't know. I'll be honest. I actually kind of like that. I like the idea that I don't... So many of these like comic storylines, when you've read like, I don't know, like 30. If you read like 30 well-versed and diverse comics, you kind of see every plot. You kind of like, oh, here's this plot. Here's this one. This is what's going on. This one, you know, you could have called a mile out. You could have said, oh no, Rao is evil. But we're halfway through the series, and I don't know what that means. Like, what are we, okay, Rao is evil, and like everybody's like, I'm sure he's trying to like suction off the life force of this entire planet. So be it. But what's the bigger mystery here? We have this Infinity Corporation stuff. We have these stones, a forever crisis. I don't know what any of that means. And I don't think it's a failure on the storytelling's part. I think it's just actually setting up a larger mystery. And it's something that we're going to be exploring over these next 4 issues. So I'm into it. I still like this book. Double page spread, Brian Hitch's widescreen action. So it works. It definitely does. The only thing I'll dock it for, if I can even technically dock it for it, is that it really was hard to get back into this issue because it has been so long since issue 4. And issue 5 doesn't count because it's a Martian Manhunter book. It's not even in this trade. Like, it's only in the Martian Manhunter trade. So, yeah. It's, you know, a little bit of on that front. But everything else, I'm down with the series. I think that It does a good job of splitting across the entire league. It does a good job of setting up this mystery. I'm interested in what's happening. And that's after this midsection reveal that was obvious to begin with. So I'm going to say this is a... I'll give it the 8. It barely scratches up to the 8. It's almost at a 7.5, but I'm going to give it that little extra bit. And if anything, it's just because these double page spreads look very, very good. I really like them. So yeah, definitely check out this series. Sinestro number 18, written by Cullen Bunn, art by Brad Walker and Neil Edwards. So last issue, the Paling had come to Earth. Wonder Woman is fighting on the side of Sinestro and Black Adam. Black Adam was brought into the Sinestro Corps, and that's basically where we leave off. So this issue picks up showing the Paling going across the planet. Particularly, we see them messing around with Harley and Deathstroke, and specifically Scarecrow, like to an unhealthy degree. And up in space, outside in the atmosphere, Wonder Woman and the rest of Sinestro Corps, Black Adam included, are all just fighting against as many of their bishops as humanly possible, just punching through, doing what they can. Wonder Woman notices that many of them are making it down to Earth and like, hey, my people, they're down there, I gotta go help them. And Sinestro's like, fine, go, whatever, take some of my people, Arkillo, go down there and do whatever Wonder Woman says, I'll send back up whenever I can. So they head down there, splitting the group. Black Adam's like, she's so short-sighted. If the Paling is not stopped here, then Earth will be destroyed regardless. They need to come up here. Who needs her? And Sinestro's like, we might. This is actually like a big deal. So a bunch of the Sinestro members are having their emotional energy drained, whatever. And then they see the big ones. The Vickers are flying through the sky, and they're heading on their way over towards Warworld, which I know was explained at some point, but he calls Ranks, which I know is like a member that probably is just taking control of Warworld, but they use Ranks and Warworld interchangeably here. So regardless, their defenses are more strong now. They are unable to basically be touched by yellow light. They're, the rings are useless more or less. So Black Adam's like, all right, if they're unable to be impacted by yellow light, we have to teach them fear one more time. And Black Adam just rips apart one of them with his bare hands, just being like, well, I mean, fair, that works. The physical nature of it, you could do that. So at that point, Sinestro calls out to Ranks and says, hey, deploy the defenses, do what you can, like get rid of all of them. So a bunch of laser beams and drone ships and stuff start flying out after the bishops, and Sinestro says how, Warworld isn't that different from the Paling. They both absorb other cultures and take what they want, and blah, blah, blah. We see in the med bay of the place where Sornik and her weird little creepy guy are, all of the people, all the Yellow Lanterns who have been impacted by the Paling that are essentially now zombies, they're getting up and moving around. Sornik blasts one of their heads open with her energy, but they just keep moving. It's just, they describe it as the light that fills them burns everything that made them unique, that gave them life from the inside out. And so I think it's Vax. I'm going to say the name is Vax. The whole thing is psychically cutting them apart, just uses his powers, and they all explode. And he's like, all right, I know what you should say. I shouldn't have done that. I understand. And Sornik's like, nah, man, that was fine. Like, we can talk about it later if you want, but we got to go deal with this. So outside, we see the fights continuing. Black Adam and them are all, completely useless with their yellow light stuff, so they have to use just their bare hands. And then Black Adam gets hit by a major bolt of anti-emotional energy. Turns out, it's Mongol. If you remember, in this book, Sinestro loaded Mongol up with a whole bunch of yellow energy and just threw him out into space to try to bait the Paling to appear. Turns out, they found him. It worked. And Sinestro's like, oh yeah, all right, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I'll admit that one. That's on me. So at that point, we see a bunch of Paling ships are going past. They're all coming down into the planet. It's becoming more dire down there. Superman is defending a group of people from Paling bishops or whatever. He's getting zapped by stuff. Random cities are being attacked. It's a whole big thing. Wonder Woman comes in, fights by Superman's side, and sees that she's fighting with this Arkillo and the Sinestro Corps, and just like, wait a minute, hold on, why are you teaming up with them? And Arkillo's like, oh, we're the Sinestro Corps, we're the savior of and one of them's like, Earth, and he's like, yeah, savior of Earth, that's the one, we're gonna do that. And then Lysidrak, who I guess is here at this point, she just like one panel where she says, I've foreseen this day. This will be the day of Sinestro's greatest triumph, but also the day Sinestro falls. I'll get to that. So we see that Black Adam is just punching the ever-loving crap out of Mongol. Sornik catches up with her dad and just like, oh, hey, Nax, Sornik, what's going on? And he's like, Nax saved us in the med bay. Don't worry about it. Why are you so calm, Sinestro? We're in the middle of this war. Do you have a secret weapon? Did you plan this? And he's like, maybe. I'll show you what I got. And then he summons the Manhunters. And the Manhunters are all based off of yellow energy still. So Sornik rightly points out, like, okay, but they're not going to be any more effective than we are. Like, they're going to do the same thing. And he's like, Not only are they completely disposable, because I can always make more, but also they have a different purpose. And he calls the units 37 through 61. Well, first off, he says their number one unit thing is they're looking for the leader, the number one person, the Pale Bishop himself. So that's their primary objective while they're fighting off other ones. But he calls off a little subsection of them and says, all right, you group, initiate recruitment. And they all just hover over Earth, their mouths open up, and rings start flying out. And we see rings go down to Scarecrow, to Deathstroke, to Harley, to Wonder Woman, until one ring finally lands itself down on Superman's finger. And it says, Kal-El of Krypton, welcome to Sinestro Corps. So, yeah, you got a bunch of people joining Sinestro Corps. All right, over to the Lysidrak thing. I never read the Jeff Johns stuff. I read as much of the Jeff Johns stuff was in the New 52, but I didn't go back to before that. Blind spot of mine. But the one thing I know about Lysidrak, from what little I have read of her, is that she's constantly doing this. She is constantly doing this thing of like, this is the moment. This is it right now. I definitely saw this moment beforehand, guys. And it never feels worse than it does right here. It's like, really? This random ass nothing story about the pale bishops and vicars and anti-emotion or whatever is Sinestro's greatest triumph. I feel like I could think of 6 better moments from prior to this moment that have already been greater triumphs. But all right, you do you, buddy. I just found that funny. I found it hilarious how it just feels so like she just wants to be relevant. And she's like, I can't throw a punch, but oh, Sinestro's gonna fall. Oh no. So the other part of it is Superman joining the Sinestro Corps. I think it's gonna last about 6 pages. I think it's gonna like be oh yeah, look, he's using the ring. Oh, okay, there it goes, flying away, goodbye. So we'll see how long that lasts. I don't feel like it's going to be a big thing, but overall, I like bringing back the Mongol stuff. That was obviously set up, and coming back to that feels like there's some long-term planning here. I appreciate it, even if he is just realizing like, oh yeah, I didn't wrap up that storyline. I should do that. No, it feels like there is building to something here. Obviously, we're reaching the end of the New 52 era. I get the vibe that this stuff that we're doing here feels like we are wrapping up the plot as a whole, but even if this is something where we're just wrapping up this arc and then we're going into something else for the last like 4 issues or whatever, it still works. It's still solid and well done. So I'm going to say this is I'll say a 7.5. It's good, not great, but building towards something, and I appreciate it. Titans Hunt number 3, written by Dan Abnett, art by Geraldo Borges, Paulo Siqueira, and Jackson Herbert. So last issue, I mean, it was a bunch of stuff going on, but the big reveal at the end was Donna Troy showed up to break up a fight, or join in the fight, as the case may be, between Tempest and Dick Grayson. So we see Tempest, and I don't even know if he goes by that name at this point, but that's just what I know him as, is fighting against Donna. And Grayson's just watching from the sidelines like, okay, well, the Atlantean is inhumanly strong, but he's always learned how to fight in water. Fighting on air, it throws off his balance a little bit. He leaves himself a bit more open. And whoever this new woman is, as an Amazon, she's kicking his ass. And we see he just gets launched like halfway across the beach. So Grayson pulls out a harpoon grapple gun thing, fires it at Donna. It manages to wrap around her. And she's like, oh, you dare try to entrap me. Let's see how you like it. And she breaks out of it and then starts coming after Grayson and wraps it around his neck and says, like, you will speak the truth now. And he starts choking out. We then cut over to Lilith's office. It's after hours. She's trying to call Roy because he never showed up for their appointment. And then all of a sudden, she starts hearing a little tap, tap, tap at the door. And the voice goes, Lilith. And she's like, no, go away. And he's like, oh, let me in, Lilith. No, I do not give you permission to enter. And he's like, oh, that's cute. And basically, it just boils down to this thing where Lilith is getting scared. She's seeing like visions of this creature, this guy outside the window. And like she's got an intercom system and it starts talking to her through that as well. And he's basically just saying like, you have set a little bit of magic. You've set like a little thing that stops me from being able to get in at you. Fine, sure, whatever. But it's not going to last. I'm losing my patience. I need you to go ahead and use the Herald. Call them together. Do it fast, or I'm going to come again. And no matter what magic you got, no binding word will be able to stop me. And she just like destroys all the technology that you could possibly be talking through, and then she just breaks down a little bit. So we go back to the beach. And Donna's choking him out, just like, oh, speak, tell me the truth. And Grayson's like, you know this isn't a lasso of truth, right? And she's like, huh, guess you're right. What's your name? And he's like, oh, it's Dick. And she's like, that's unfortunate. So at that point, he asks her name, and she says, Donna Troy. And he's like, wait a minute, I knew that. How do I know that? I've never met you. There's no way we could have ever met. You were made just like 6 issues ago over in the Wonder Woman book. And she's like, the world's weird. And then all of a sudden, in comes Tempest again. And Gar's like, oh, I'm going to kick your ass. That's who I am. So he starts laying the hurt down on Donna, but then she flips him back over again. And it's just like, all right, well, I clearly cannot have a dog in this fight. So I see this beach house, this little tiny hut off to the side. I'm going to go hang out in that and come up with the plan over there. And as soon as he gets inside, all of a sudden Donna is thrown in through the wall. And as Gar comes up, he's pissed, but he sees a sign on the wall, and Dick sees it at the same time too. And it says the Hatton Corners Teen Clubhouse, but next to teen is the word Titans written in red. And they're like, wait a minute, what? So we go over to Mal, and I can never remember her name. It's Bumblebee, but I can't remember her like actual name. And she's still worried about the image. She's still worried about this picture of him accepting his award where there's a shadowy figure behind him. Karen, that's her name. And he's basically trying to do a rehearsal for a movie score or something like that. He's holding up his orchestra because she's so worried on the phone. And he's just like, look, honey, don't worry about it. Just relax. Take a load off. And she's like, I have been pregnant with this baby. I feel like a blimp. I want to be doing something. And he's like, all right, fine. Investigate the photo. Do whatever. Like, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I'll talk to you soon. So he gets back to the crew and they're like, oh, is your wife okay? And she's like, yeah, she's fine. Don't worry about it. All right, 1, 2, 3. So then we go over to jail, and that's where Roy is. He is being talked to by one of the cops, or possibly a lawyer of some sort, and he's got Roy's bow and arrow in his hand, and he's like, all right, you want to tell us what's up? Because you turned like a DUI into attempted murder. What's up with that, man? What's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to be safe. I figured I'd be safe for being locked up, but I need to make my phone call. He's like, right, totally. Question, tattoos on your arm, are those gang marks? And he's like, I don't know what I don't even remember getting these. And it's like, as far as I can tell, it's a skull with some weird squigglies at the bottom and then a mechanical scorpion or spider or something. So he holds up the bow and arrows and he's like, and what are these? And he just lists off all the technical stuff. He's like, what do you use them for? He's like, vermin. Can I get my phone call? He's like, yeah, you better be nice to me. And then all of a sudden there's a crashing noise. And the cop goes to investigate it. And he hears a loud bang, boom. And Roy's like, oh, geez, what's going to happen? And then standing there with the bow and arrow is Narc from last issue. He's shown up here and he's got the bow and arrow. He draws it back, aims it at Roy, and Roy's like, Jesus, man, you can't, don't do that. I'm telling you, there's some crazy guy in here. Someone help me. And then as Narc lets it go, Roy ends up like clapping his hands together, catches the arrow midair, and Narc says, "You're speedy." And he goes, "Oh, geez, you could have killed me." And Narc's like, "Not if you weren't speedy." So he unlocks the cell door, lets him out, and says, "All right, time to go. We have our fate coming ahead." We go back to Dick, Donna Troy, and Tempest, and they're all like looking at the sign, saying like, "Doesn't that feel familiar?" They're like, we all feel that, right? Also, we all know each other's name. Like Tempest, who hasn't said a word here, is just like, "Dick Grayson, Donna Troy. Why do I know your names?" And they're like, "Right? What is going on here? Why do we all know this stuff here?" And Donna's like, "Wait, but I also feel like there are other names. I'm picking up on other names like Robin." And then we cut back over to Mal. Turns out the rehearsal, it's going okay, but he wants to pump it up a little bit. He's looking for this track on his iPod. He's like, "All right, hold on, I got something. I think we could do this." And as he's looking for the track and presses play on one, all of a sudden, he starts freaking out. I'm going to just say it's a seizure. It looks like a seizure. And his eyes roll back and he falls down. And as he's freaking out, we see Lilith gets this splitting headache. Roy and Narc also like feel something. It's very loud to them. Same for Dick, Donna, Karen, and Donna. And down on the ground, we see Malcolm is like bleeding out his nose. He's not okay. And the mysteriously shadow figure says, "Oh yeah, they heard that all right." And our final page to reveal, we got more characters. Hawk and Dove show up. And Hawk says, "Did you hear that?" And Dove goes, "What? No, I didn't hear anything." He's like, "How did you not hear that?" She's like, "What are you talking about?" So Hawk was part of the Teen Titans at some point. So therefore he heard the thing. But Dove is Dawn Granger, and she was not, because back then it was Dawn Granger. Yeah, I know a little bit about Hawk and Dove's history. I actually have, completely off topic, the entirety of their like 90s series. Like I own the whole thing of it. Never read a single issue. So yeah, I like it. It's hard to explain it, but the mystery of it, the way that it's drawn, like all this stuff, it just has this naturally darker tone to it. It's not this like light and fluffy, "Oh yeah, no, we're getting the gang back together, like everything's cool." Like everything about it is drawn with this idea of it being like a supernatural mystery. This idea that a dark force has intervened and they're just not even realizing what they lost to begin with. And I really appreciate how that tone comes across. It really does work. That's the thing. Like, it's one thing to attempt the tone, it's another thing to succeed. So I'm down for this. I am looking forward to how the rest of the series goes. Hopefully I don't need to be too educated on Titans lore because I am very limited, but overall it's been doing a great job of keeping me in the loop. So I'm going to say this is I'm going to give it an 8. I think honestly it gets up to that level here. Barely, but it is there. So yeah, 8 for this, and I look forward to future issues. Aquaman number 47, written by Cullen, Bunn, art by Vicente Cifuentes. So last issue, Wonder Woman showed up to talk to Aquaman, being like, "Hey bro, what's up? You've been acting weird. The League's concerned." And he's like, "I got some personal stuff." And then Amnesty Bay got attacked by Thule. So we pick up there, we see Aquaman and Wonder Woman teleport in, and are immediately fighting against all these warrior people of Thule or whatever. And it's just like, okay, well, Justice League, let's call them in. So the entire League shows up, and like Flash and Superman or whatever are caring for some of the people there. Superman, all right, look, this page has like 17 continuity things on it. First and foremost, Batman, Bruce Wayne, is alive, and he's just here, and nobody makes any reference to it. Superman is in his t-shirt setup, but he also has heat vision, which I'm like 80% sure he lost. That was a thing that was part of his powers being gone, so yeah. And then Hal Jordan is here as Green Lantern just totally normally as well, despite the fact that he's also not in that situation. So collectively, this is just everywhere in the timeline. But they start fighting against the Thule people, and they succeed. They overrun it. It's no problem. And then the entire League is like, hey, what's up? We could have helped with this, Aquaman, if you had told us. Like, everything could have been fine. Aquaman's like, I know. Okay, I had this conversation with Wonder Woman. I get it. I wanted to try to deal with it on my own. I probably should have, like, cut off all the Thule stuff right away, but there are innocent people there, and I want to try to help them. And Justice League's like, innocent people, you say? We can dig it. So, at that point, they say, all right, what can we do to help? So in pops Extriax, the random dude, and he's just like, hi, yeah, I'm part Thule, I guess. I've been spying on the Atlanteans, and the fake Queen Mara is there. I don't know where the other, like, real Mara is, but yeah, things are not good down there, so it's a big deal. And there's like, okay, Extriax, we need you to open up a super massive portal, the biggest portal you possibly can, to get like hundreds through all at once. We're going to try to get people out of Thule because my timetable has changed and I can't keep waiting. And we see, as they're talking about fake Mara, real Mara, all that stuff, they are being watched from afar by the Atlantean Guard and like Tempest or whatever his name is, Guard, and like Tula, all of them are like, hey, wait, hold on. He's saying stuff about a fake queen? Like, real Mara's there. Like, we saw her. She's there. Is that not the real Mara? Have we been played this whole time? And so they start, like, coming to this conclusion. They're like, okay, maybe let's not attack him right now. Let's just see what happens here, because it seems like there's other stuff we're not aware of yet. So Aquaman leaves Amnesty Bay, swims down to Atlantis, immediately is met by like 100 Atlantean guards, and he's just like, yeah, this is my other home. I ain't doing so hot with homes right now. And then he immediately gets attacked by like all of them. He's like, yeah, well, I was turned against, and people were turned against me because of something that was disguising itself as my wife. So I don't blame them, but I got to be able to get through here. So they go through the fight. We see he gets stabbed through the shoulder by one of the spears, and he's like, all right, fair enough. And he uses, I think, ice powers. I don't remember this being a thing, but he uses ice powers to stop one of the guards, and he's like, all right, my wife takes first and foremost, but the reason I'm attacking now is because over in Thule, the entire Justice League is having their own storyline. Batman's riding a dragon, and they're all fighting against the Thule things in order to try to stop the incursions and all that stuff. So, yeah, there's that. So Aquaman continues to fight through. We see he attacks one of the guards, or sorry, a ship that hits one of the guards, and as the guard is about to be like killed, he swoops down and saves him, and the guard's like, you saved me? And he's like, yeah, well, I also crashed the ship to begin with, so give and take. But the guard is, starting to realize, like, wait a minute, hold on, maybe it's not actually a thing. But as more things come in, Aquaman uses his boom, 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 summon the creatures of the deep, and like a giant-ass oarfish and an anglerfish come up, and they just attack all the guards and take him out. And he's like, oh, well, thank you, my friend. Don't hurt them too badly. They are still Atlanteans, and they don't know of what they do. Until one of them chimes up saying, like, you half-breed, you were never king of Atlantis. You suck. And Aquaman's just like, all right, you can eat that guy. That guy's okay to eat. So we then cut over to, I can't even remember her name. They said her name before, but I cannot remember it. Fake Mara, who is back to her normal looking self now, is around the chained up real Mara. And he's like, oh, hey, your husband's attacking, trying to save you. That's so romantic, but it will never work. He'll never find you. And Mara's like, he's not here for me. He's here for all of you. And she's like, all right, well, let's go find out if he has the ability to do that, because there will be another sacrifice here, and we'll see if he's going to pay the price. So she goes off, leaving a couple of Thule sorcerers there to watch over Mara. And Mara goes like, hey, Thule, you live in a version of Atlantis that never sank. You don't know how crazy I can get with water. And then I guess she was just biding her time. She uses her water abilities to choke out all of the Thulean sorcerers or whatever down here, like sends them away. And she's like, yep, I don't need Arthur to save me. I can save myself, but I'm going to go fight by his side regardless. So she's off to join the fight. It's okay. It's hard to describe because it is doing stuff. It is like moving the plot forward. But it's so weird because one of my biggest critiques is how it felt like nothing was happening for the longest time. Like, we were just constantly doing the same thing of Arthur saying, like, oh, but I have to save the Thulians, and oh, da-da-da. And then, like, we got the one reveal that Mera wasn't actually Mera. And that's, like, the only thing that I could say was forward momentum across any of these issues. Then this issue happens. And everything changes. The League is now in Thule. He's launching his attack. Mera escapes. They find out that the Atlanteans find out that Mera might not be Mera. Like, everything changes all at once. But because it's all happening at once, it feels like we're just getting the cliff notes. It feels like we get a 2-page spread of the entire Justice League with Batman riding a goddamn dragon. And that's a background noise. That's not even the story. Like, that should have been a full issue, or at least half of it. That should have been something we were cutting back to, at the very least. So, yeah, I don't know. It's weird in that I like what it's doing on the broad scale of it. Like, I like how much we're fast-forwarding the story here and actually moving things ahead, but I want to see the things that we're doing. I want to see those moments. I want to see the moment of, oh, the Justice League is going off to fight against Thule, and oh, we get this whole thing. Like, him summoning the creatures from the deep. Usually that would be at least like 2 to 3 pages of cool stuff of like all these guards trying to fight off the fish. It's like 3 panels here. And that's fine. If you're pressed for time, you're pressed for time, but it's like, you had 6 issues before this that you could have easily been using to pace this out. So, add on top of it the continuity issues, which I'm just going to hand wave away. That's not the worst part of it, but it does get a little confusing at times. I'm going to say this is... I'll give it a 7. It's not great, but at the very least, I like that we're making this momentum forward. It does feel like the next issue is going to wrap it up, so kudos in that front. I just wish I could have seen some of the cooler moments. Deathstroke number 13, written by James Bonny and Tony Estaniel, art by Paulo Pantalena. So, last issue, we still had them breaking into Belle Reve. We still had the whole thing they wanted to kill Waller. We got introduced to Snakebite, I believe his name is. And then all of a sudden Catwoman showed up at the end because that was Deathstroke's escape route. That's how he was going to get out. And we basically recap that whole thing here saying like, yeah, I don't have any sign of Waller or my daughter, which is the whole reason I came in. I got Harley here. Catwoman showed up, which I told her to. She's getting a bonus for this because she showed up early considering that everything started going to hell. And so she's joined in the fight and all this. And as they're shooting around, doing whatever, we see deeper in Belle Reve a couple of high top level SWAT whatever going down, and as they try to find where Amanda Waller is, they're stopped by Snakebite, who kills them all, and Waller's right there, and she's like, damn you, Pruitt, and he's like, no Pruitt, Snakebite now. So once all the guards are taken out and there's a moment of safety for Deathstroke and crew, he's basically like, okay, Harley, what the hell's a snakebite? And this is like, hey, he was a guy, he's got little tendrils that have poison, they're all super violent and they'll poke your eyes out. So Catwoman's like, all right, well, that's our cue, we're gonna leave. Like, let's go, Slade, you hired me to get you out, we're leaving because there's no reason to stick around here. And Harley's like, oh, well, what about Waller? You said that you'd kill her for me. And he's like, would Snakebite leave her alive? And she's like, no, not at all. Snakebite would absolutely kill her. And Catwoman's like, then she's dead. Let's go. But Slade is like, okay, look, I need to verify that Waller's dead, because if on the off chance she's not, then I need to like find out about my daughter. So at that exact moment, over the walkie-talkies, over the comm, Snakebite comes in and says, hey, it's your boy, Snakebite. I got Waller. For any G.I. Joes coming down in here, you're going to listen to what I have to say, or else I'm going to kill Waller. So we see a bunch of, I believe, prisoners are listening to this as well, and they say, oh, if anyone approaches the prison's administration center, Waller dies. And then the prisoners, who have a bunch of guns at this point, are like, all right, you heard them, let's go. So everyone's on their way to the administration center. We see Pruitt is looking through his old file, and he's like, oh man, that guy sucked. He's not Snakebite. And Waller's like, you're still pathetic. You're still the worst possible guy imaginable. And she ends up trying to sneak a knife over to him as he's talking about his rebirth as Snakebite or whatever, and it like doesn't even pierce her skin. It doesn't do anything, and he just like grabs her and just being like, look, I need you alive, but I don't need you to be like in good health, so we can do this however you want here. So we see Waller and them are making their way, or not Waller, Slade Wilson is making his way down, and Catwoman's basically like, okay, I'm out. I have no reason to be here anymore. You hired me to get you out. You don't want to leave. Yeah, I've done my duty. You're still going to pay me. I'm out now. So she buys them a little bit of time by taking out some of the guards that are further down the hall, but then she's just gone from the story. So Catwoman's out. It's back to Harley and Deathstroke. They make their way into the administration room, and then we see that Snakebite is hiding Waller. They're both hiding behind the room. And when it's like, oh, well, he's not here, this was all just a ruse, and Deathstroke pulls his gun out on Harley and says, all right, I'm done. I need to know exactly what's going on with my daughter right here, right now. You're going to tell me. And he's like, oh, you didn't kill Waller. That's just part of the deal. And he's like, one. And she's like, all right, fine. I lied. I don't know nothing about no daughter. You just came in here spewing that stuff. You were saying it all, and I just rolled with it so I can get what I want out of this. Can you blame me? And then all of a sudden the wall explodes. The prisoners come in. They're all looking for Waller. Deathstroke's not having any of it, so he just kills all of them immediately. But then Harley, during the midst of all that, gets caught by Snakebite as well. So now he's like, all right, well, I need Waller alive. You need her alive. What are we going to do with that? Throw away the guns or I'll kill her. And Deathstroke's like, you can fine, kill her. Like, you can do that, but just let me ask you like 5 questions first. Like, I just need some information. By all means, you can do whatever you want. And he's like, yeah, well, I can get you a ride. What do you want? Like, I can do whatever you want. And he's like, oh, I've got a ride coming to me already. Because part of his earlier demands were a helicopter or whatever. And Deathstroke's like, they're not going to give you a helicopter. Come on, man. I can give you an actual way out of here. Does Waller look like she's in control here? And then Harley gets restless and like elbow Snakebite, so she gets thrown across the room. During the distraction, Deathstroke pulls out his swords, saying like, all right, well, if you're not going to play ball and try to make a deal, then we're going to fight. So they start fighting each other. He starts slashing off all of Snakebite's tendrils. However, they grow back fast. He plunges his sword into Snakebite's chest, but it doesn't go in deep enough, I guess, and he uses the tendril to wrap around it and Slade's throat. So he starts getting choked out, but he is injected with a little bit of the poison. But using that moment of opportunity, Deathstroke kicks him out through a completely separately made hole in the wall, I guess, that leads down to the ground floor, or not the ground floor, like the ground of the building outside. So he's now outside. Deathstroke goes over to Waller and just like, where's my daughter? And she's like, I don't know a damn thing about your daughter. Like, none of that makes any sense. Snakebite earlier on was telling Waller about the man behind the curtain, and she's like, it must be him. The man behind the curtain must be the one. However, even despite your healing factor, his poison's gonna mess with you. You ain't doing so good, Deathstroke. And Deathstroke starts like falling down to the ground. And she's like, look, you set down the weapons. I promise you'll be taken alive. But instead, Smoke Bomb comes in, the SWAT team ready to take on Deathstroke. He jumps out the hole in the wall as well. And then when the smoke clears, Harley's just left standing there. So Waller gets medical attention. Apparently 23 inmates are dead. Snakebite managed to escape. Catwoman was just waiting outside with the van, so she picks up Deathstroke, and he's just like, oh, I don't know what happened to my daughter. I have no leads. I have nothing to go off of. What is happening here? And then we cut to the daughter. It's Rose, and she's looking at a photo of her and some other woman. I don't recognize her, but apparently it was a friend who betrayed her or something. And Rose is just sitting there in a chair. It seems like she's like at a private eye office or something like that. And she's talking to some shadowy figure, and the shadowy figure's like, how did you know Harley Quinn wanted your father to kill Waller? And Rose says, oh, but my brother Jericho, he glimpsed it when he looked into Harley Quinn's mind, and so just we were using that. That's what it was. And the shadowy figure says, oh, well, I just needed a shiny thing to distract him, but now we'll break him and Deathstroke will die. Who is it? I don't know. I have no idea. Frankly, there's zero idea who this could be. It's fine. It's an okay enough issue in its own right. I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, you can see the inner machinations, the things that are like, oh, why was Catwoman introduced at the end of the last issue? And the answer is, I guess Catwoman sells, because then she's immediately gone from this issue. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, why not? Because Deathstroke didn't need an escape route. He didn't need someone to bail out. And Catwoman didn't do anything significant enough in this issue to matter. So, yeah, it is just for the sake of like, oh, yeah, we just wanted to have that little extra sex appeal in here. Same thing with Snakebite. Like, it's all this stuff of like, oh, no, he's the biggest, baddest. You never snakebite someone you don't want to mess with. Oh, there he goes. He's running away. Okay, bye, Snakebite. Yeah, no, it's not a bad issue, but it's for someone who's read like 3,000 of these new 52 comics now, it's just the little things that give it away. So I'm going to say this one is probably like a 7.5, somewhere around there. It might even go as low as a 7, but I'll give it the 7.5. And we'll see who the shadowy figure is that has kidnapped Rose, if she's even kidnapped. God only knows. Superman number 47, written by Gene Luen Yang, art by Howard Porter, Raymond Bermudez, and Tom Derenick. So last issue, we went to the place where Hoarder Root was. There's a sand Superman who has all of Superman's powers, and then Jimmy got shot. So this issue picks up with Superman being like, oh my God, Jimmy, oh God, I can't hear his heartbeat. And then he's like, oh wait, my super hearing's gone. I can't hear anyone's heartbeats. Let me check for a pulse. Okay, he's fine. He's fine, everybody. But he needs to get to a hospital ASAP. So Cundy's is like, I'll take care of him. You take care of the evil sand Superman thing going on. So we see that Superman gets blasted by Sand Superman's heat vision, tries to like bait him out the window. He's like, Candice, are you going to be good? And she's like, yeah. I've been talking to the computers in here, which I always forget is her power. It turns out there's some, I literally want to quote her here because it's the funniest thing. Talking with the machines around here, they've got vehicles parked below. Computerized vehicles. Oh, okay. So, yeah, he baits Sand Superman out the window, gives her some space. Some random person in there, I think it's Ure, or whatever her name was, is like, oh, no, you're not going anywhere with that Jimmy Olsen guy. And then she just says a bunch of zeros and ones and summons a car from the basement to push Ure off onto her heels so they can escape. We see that Superman is like, all right, when I got my solar flare ability, I relied on it a bit too much. As such, now that this guy has it, I'm wondering if I could bait him into using it. And he does. He ends up baiting Sand Superman into using the solar flare, and he was hoping that it would be like an exchange of energies. He'd get back all of his powers. No, doesn't work like that. But it did work in that because this Superman's made of sand and it was exposed to extreme heat, now it's made of glass, and he punches right through it. So Superman jumps back up and talks to Ure, and she's all tied up in like machine parts or whatever because Cundisa did that. And just like, all right, tell me where to find Hoarder Root. And she's like, psh, he'll find you. He's like the internet. He's everywhere. So we see Jimmy's recovering in the hospital. A couple of doctors are like, Jesus, man, these alien stuffs, it's crazy. But they get kicked out because visiting hours are over, and there's a specific nurse there who's like, oh, don't worry, we'll let you know whatever happens. So we then go back to the 1001 house, and I always forget her name. It's a whole long thing. Shahrazad is seeing Clark pack up his stuff and is about to leave. And she's like, that better not be what I think. You got a contract, man. And he's like, look, there's a whole big thing going on. I'll be putting everyone at risk. And she's like, everyone here is a god and also a fighter. Like, come on, what are you doing? You know how this is gonna work out. And he's just like, look, ideals are expensive. I can't. It's like you said yourself. And she's like, well, your strength may be all that people see, but it's not all that you are. So I guess that changes his mind because later that day he's prepping for a show in the ring with whatever his name is, Himosu, and he's not got his head in the game. He gets knocked on his ass, and then all of a sudden, the wall breaks down, and in comes Hoarder Root with a bunch of robots, and he just strolls right up, and he's like, "Oh, Superman, let's see if you're still super." And then Superman summons a couple of other gods from backstage, and one of them, Mayari, makes a bubble around them and says, "I came up with a plan that I think you rely on Wi-Fi and like internet signals and stuff like that. So Mayari here put up a bubble that you can't transport your consciousness out of here. You're stuck in here. And so if I take out your body right now, that's it. You're done." And he's like, clever, clever. Luckily, I brought all of these robot goons to help fight. And Superman's like, "And I brought gods." So big fight ensues. They beat up all the robots, and Himosu almost gets his powers drained by one of them, but then Superman jumps in and stops it. So Superman's got his hands around Hoarder Root up in the air, and he's like, "Oh, this is for Himosu and Apalaki and Perry White." And Jimmy, because, Jimmy was hurt at the very least. And Hoarder's baiting him. He's like, "Go on, do it then, do it." And Superman's about to, and he says no. And Hoarder pulls out a gun. Apparently it's just a shotgun or something, and he's like, "Haha, if you let me go, all of your enemies will know that you're nothing but just mic work. It'll be open season on everyone you love." And Superman just walks up, punches Hoarder Root in the face, knocks him out, crushes the gun. So Condisa comes in, and apparently their plan here, now that he's knocked out, he's unable to transfer his consciousness, is Condisa has made a bioorganic whatever hard drive, and using her 0110 magic, she transfers Hoarder Root's consciousness thing into this hard drive that is only an input only. It can't let him out. So Hoarder's now trapped on the hard drive. The body of Hoarder starts waking up because it is a real person, and Superman takes off the mask of Hoarder's body, and we see it was Jimmy. Superman could have killed Jimmy, but Jimmy says, "Oh, Clark, you're okay." So everything's fine there. And we get the follow-up bits here where turns out that the hard drive is being stored with Mr. Terrific because he's got the capabilities to make sure that no Wi-Fi signal ever reaches it ever, no matter what. And he's like, "Okay, but why not just destroy it?" And Superman's like, "It's not an it, it's a him." We see that Clark is done at the house, the 1001 house, all the gods wrestling storyline. It's like, "Yeah, all right, that's great." They hand him some alcohol, say, "All right, here you go, something to remember me by." So he goes off on his way. As Superman, Jimmy, and Condisa are driving away, Jimmy has a flashback. Turns out it's the memories of Hoarder Root. And Hoarder Root was a normal-ass dude who was really good at hacking and also happened to be the illegitimate child of Vandal Savage. Vandal said, "You're a dweeb. I don't want you. Get out of here." And so he used his technological whatevers to make a Frankenstein monster that was embedded with a version of his own consciousness. And he's like, "Yes, I've made a software backup of my own mind or whatever, and nanotechnology and all that stuff." And the Frankenstein monster's like, "But we are both the same person." He's like, No, you're not me. You're only sort of me." And he's like, "Sort of you. There can only be one of me." And he kills the original version, and then this Frankenstein version becomes Hoarder Roots because it has all of the hacking information and is also a Frankenstein monster that can be uploaded into different bodies or whatever. So he goes to Vandal Savage, says, "I've got plans." And Vandal's like, "Yo, now you're my son." So Jimmy snaps out of it, and he's like, "Oh my God, I get it now. That's why all the people that Hoarder took possession of, like their bodies were, they had to die, because otherwise they'd have memories of his origin story. And I know who his father is as well." And then we go over to Terrific Tech, where Mr. Terrific gets attacked by Vandal Savage, who says, "Oh, so sorry to drop in, but you have my son." That's the issue. Next week, literally the week following this, is an annual that is kicking off what I believe is the start of the Savage Dawn storyline, where we finally get all these different pieces, Action Comics, Batman, Superman, everything comes together, and we get to see what was Vandal Savage's real plan. Sure. I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed. And it really comes down to, you can look through my previous reviews here. Hoarder Root may not have been the most interesting villain. He may not, he drifted in and out. It felt like he was just kind of amorphous or whatever. But he did do the one big thing. He did do the thing of we reveal the identity. That is because of Hoarder Root. That is because, I mean, Lois, technically, but like Hoarder Root. That's the thing that he did. And because of that, he's latched into continuity. Like, you can't not have him now. It had to have happened to some extent. And to have it be that he's just a normal dude who was a hacker and then made a backup of his brain, like, it is a backstory, don't get me wrong, but it feels like a truncated backstory. It feels like it got so cut down, and like it's all just revealed over 2 pages with Jimmy's flashback memories. And then on top of that, and the worst part of it, is the wrestling stuff. The stuff of like, oh, we've got this little side crew of characters of these ancient gods that are almost forgotten, and they have to do wrestling matches to have their myths retold again. Yeah, that's done. That's done. That's done in a 1-page thing where we say that that's done. I was enjoying it. I was thinking it was fun. So I'm a little let down on all fronts here where, we got to move on to bigger things, so be it. But it does feel like there was a bigger plan here, something that was going to last maybe 12 issues, maybe like significantly longer. And instead it was just this thing of the moment that we decided to move post New 52 into Rebirth, and they said, all right, we need to have the Savage Dawn thing wrapped up because that's been set up over numerous books. And then, spoiler alert for anyone who doesn't know this is coming, we got to kill Superman. So having those things, I feel like just truncated this storyline way quicker than it meant to be. But, take what you can. I got to say like 6.5. It's I want to give it the 7, I really do, but like it's just not there. It's way too fast paced, it's way too rushed, and I don't feel like I got a satisfactory ending to something I was actually invested in to some extent. So yeah, 6.5. Gotham by Midnight, number 12, written by Ray Fawkes, art by Juan Ferreira. This is the series finale, and last issue, we had the Spectre emerged from Corrigan, joined on the side of the evil demon thing, Echondrid, and then at the end of the issue, they're both kaiju-sized, and a kaiju Sister Justine comes in and says, all right, everyone hold up. So we pick up with that, where Sister Justine comes to the Spectre and just like, hey, you don't work for Echondrid. Get back out of here. You're not its agent here. And Spectre's like, oh, there's blood of the wicked. Oh, you will not stop me, Sister Justine. So they start fighting with each other in big kaiju-style fights. Meanwhile, Jim Gordon's Batman, his suit starts locking up, so they have to get him out of there. Dr. Tar is just doing a sky portal thing, but like out of his body. He's just giving off this energy as a pillar of light, and he's telling everybody nearby, like, get into the pillar. The things, the zombies that are coming out will not hurt you if you hang out in the light. So they all step inside and they watch as Sister Justine, as they call her, the Nun of the Narrows, is just stomping through town. So the rest of the cops see all this happening and they're just like, who the hell is she? And it's like, oh, that's our old coworker. Anyway, so Drake walks over to Corrigan and just like, look, you're saying that the Spectre has nothing to do with heaven and it's all just you, it's your subconscious wants and whatever. So I think the only way to solve this, the only way to save everybody, is to do what was suggested from Lieutenant Weaver all those months ago. And she pulls out her gun and aims it at Corrigan and says, look, I'm going to let out a scream and it's going to be a bad one, but I got no other options. And we see that like it's cutting in between Drake with the gun and then Sister Justine with her hand extended, Corrigan and the Spectre mirroring each other. And he's like, wait, hold on, Lisa. I can hear the Spectre. He's angry. I mean, I'm angry. And Justine is doing something. You got to listen. And he basically lays it down saying, Echondrid came back because there was a truce. Spectre, back in the day, struck some sort of bargain that when that monster was here in Gotham before, he got it to leave, and we failed to keep our end of the bargain up. And Drake's like, no one told us what to do. And it's just like, yeah, well, our thing was to deliver justice. That's what we need to do. And we failed. And we see all these dead that are rising up. They're the ones who felt like they died and didn't get their justice. They weren't the ones that had any sort of like peace given to them in the afterlife. So at that point, Corrigan's just like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Okay. Justice. What does that even mean? And she turns and looks at the zombies just being like, so what? They're just going to kill us all just because we didn't give them the peace that they needed. They're our friends, our grandparents. Is it going to make them happy to kill us when we're all dead together? And we go back to the Spectre fight, and Spectre's like, I'm the Spectre. I don't have to listen to you, Justine. And Justine's like, da. Your power's my power. We're both in the same level of like godliness at this point. I am the Redeemer, and I see your suffering. You have a soul to guide you. You have to have a soul to guide you as the heaven's power. So you are consumed with despair and guilt, but you don't have any of the faith. That's the issue. Corrigan doesn't have the faith that's necessary here. So at that point, Drake just seemingly walks into the arms of the zombies and is like, oh my God, if all it is that it's a group, all these zombies are just unsatisfied with these things, I'm going to fit right in, because show me someone in the city who isn't unsatisfied. So we see across the city, we just get cuts of all like the cops doing things, Batman doing things, Tar doing things. And it's just like, yeah, no, this entire city is full of the secret rage of just people who are blinded by sadness and doubt and guilt and shame. It's an unfair world, and we're stupid and we're helpless and we hurt each other all the time. So what can we possibly do to help this eldritch being? What can we give it? What does it actually want? And Justine is like leaning into the Spectre and is like curing him and like helping him through all this stuff. And Corrigan just catches the feelings and just like, it just wants us to care. It doesn't care. Like, it doesn't matter whether or not we can fix things. It just wants us to care about it. So Spectre turns around to face Achondria, just Sister Justine by his side, and just like, this is Gotham's sin. It is sick and cannot be cured. But what you do with the sick is you care for it. So we see that Corrigan reaches up and he's like, I know what to do, Spectre. You only ever do what I want. Fine. Listen, I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to say what I want. I'm ashamed. We're all animals. We hurt each other. All I want is for you to forgive me. Forgive everyone. And we see that the Spectre and Sister Justine use their powers to reach out to all of the zombies in Gotham, all these dead who are unsatisfied with the way that their justice was delivered, and starts to break them down. And Corrigan continues saying like, oh, we don't have to believe that we deserve forgiveness. We don't have to believe in ourselves, but we can't keep going on the way we're doing there. So please just forgive us. And we see all the souls of the damned, they all turn back into souls, and they're floating around the people of Gotham. And then like one by one, they each pair up and go into an actual person living in Gotham. We see Gordon takes one, Sawyer takes one, Tar takes one, and Spectre calls out to the city saying, Gotham, the unjust dead are not going to be forgotten. They've moved into your hearts. During your quiet moments, you will remember them. You will think about them, and you will know that none of you are alone in your suffering. You are never alone. And that's a moment shared between Corrigan and Drake. Tar ends up with his magic light thing stopping, and he comes back down. Drake and Corrigan come over to him, and he's just like, oh my God, I just had the most insane experience. And Drake says, hey, I don't feel the scream anymore, that death knell. It's over. It's actually over. And the sun is starting to rise over Gotham, and he's like, yeah, I think we actually did some good. The end. I like it. I like this book. I didn't expect to like this book in the way that I did, because I went into this thinking like, oh yeah, this is going to be a fun, like, the dark, mystical, demonic side of Gotham, and we're going to get through all this stuff of like seeing these monsters and these horrific, a Constantine story, but with Gotham instead. I was like, yeah, no, we're going to get all that. But what we ended up getting was like this deeper analytic thing of faith and like forgiveness and like choosing our own paths and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think it did a great job with it. And I think, by the time we hit that final issue, maybe not all the stories felt like they came together into one larger narrative. It did feel like the first couple issues were kind of its own thing. It honestly, what it felt like? It felt like issue 6 was going to be the end. It felt like they were greenlit for 6 issues. They told a story, and then only at the very end did they say, like, okay, you got 6 more. And so they did this Sister Justine thing and carried on with that. But yeah, I like with the fact we brought her back as well. That was something that I was complaining about when she died and how it felt like we moved on too quick. But no, that grief was actually still there, and it managed to pay off here. So overall, kudos. I appreciate this book. I think it did a great job with it. So I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I think it's a very well done issue. If you haven't checked out Gotham by Midnight, definitely do. It's worth the time. It's a very quick read, but it's definitely worth the time. Cyborg number 6, written by David F. Walker, art by Ivan Reyes, Felipe Watanabe, Daniel HDR, and Cliff Richards. So last issue, it was basically just all right, let's refactor, let's get everything going on again, and then teleport back in right in the middle of the fight. And then this issue is basically just like 3 things stretched out over the entirety of the issue. So they get teleported back in, the Metal Men are in the middle of the fight. I'm always going to forget her name. There's no way I can remember. Sarah? I'm going to say Sarah until I'm proven otherwise. Sarah from the alternate dimension is like, I thought you said you had a plan. And he's like, oh yeah, I do. This is it. This is the plan. So they start fighting towards each other, the Metal Men or whatever, until Cyborg just jumps off and starts doing his own thing. The Techno Sapiens are like, oh, hey, we have to go to him, until the head one's like, no, he'll come to us. That's the plan. And then, yeah, Cyborg just literally like jumps up into the middle of a group of the Techno Sapiens. And he's like, all right, everyone, come here. You all want me. I'm the chosen one. Come here. And he starts wrapping cables out of his arms and plugs into all of them. And they're like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I analyzed you. I figured out what it is. That signal that I've been picking up from you guys, it's from your operating system. I can hear it, and therefore I can connect to it, and therefore I can hack it. So he gets in, and he sees like this entire hive mind, this whole huge thing of the Technosapien OS. And he's like, look, all of the previous worlds that you conquered and all that, the problem that they had was they were trying to fight you in the physical world, in the real world. Got to take you down in cyberspace. So he like doubles over, he starts like stressing, he's like, powering up Super Saiyan, and it's like, oh, 35% non-responsive, shutting down the network, full failure imminent, and all the Technosapiens are like, oh wait, Jesus, no, don't do this, please stop. And you know, he's like, no, look, you guys are all sick. I'm not rewriting your operating system. I'm curing a disease. And all across the battlefield, the Technosapiens start falling. They start going down. Some of them try to escape through portals, I guess, back to their own world. We see that Sarah comes up and is about to kill Dr. Magnus, who is taken over by the Technosapiens. But the Metal Men jump in the way and go like, no, please, he's not Dr. Magnus. And Sarah's like, get away, machine. And she's like, you say that like it's a bad thing. And she's like, it is a bad. Look around you, woman. Read the room. So at that point, the tiniest Metal Man, God only knows who that one is. Tin, lead, green. And one of the random humans come up and say, please, we're all friends. Stop. No more fighting. And Sarah's just like kicked away. Just like, fine, whatever. I have an enemy to destroy. So at that point, everyone's looking around like, where's Victor? And then we see there's this huge explosion. It blows away all the Technosapiens around him. And we see his systems are shut down. He's getting a reboot message. And we see that Victor is like, again, dead, more or less. Like, not actually, but all of his like appendages are gone. Like his guts are basically out. He's nothing more than the bare basic torso and head. And then it says regenerating now, and it says like 15%, 48%. And as everyone's calling for Victor, saying where he is, he gets back up, and we don't see a shred of cybernetic tech on him. He just looks like a normal guy. And Sarah is the one who ends up actually finding him, future Sarah, and it's like, oh my god, is that you? And she's like, what happened? Your cybernetics, what happened to them? And he's like, and then all of a sudden he fixes it. He turns back into looking like we expect Cyborg to look. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. I don't want you to worry about me. And she's like, what did you do? And he's like, oh, I hacked in their systems, not a whole thing. And she's like, no, what did you do to yourself? And he's like, this is who I am. This is how the world knows me. I'm not ready to make that big of a change, okay? And other Sarah pauses for a second, just being like, look, she's always going to love you. You should let her know. You should tell her the truth, because I want to hate you more than anything else. And I am her, and I can't not love you. So they share a kiss, and then she goes off saying like, oh, some of the Technosapiens got away, so I'm going to go destroy all of them. Bye. So we get, after the invasion, we see Cyborg's on the comms with the whole Justice League, including Superman, like, not in a t-shirt, like, and also Bruce Wayne Batman. So where in continuity this takes place? But regardless, they're saying, like, you saved the planet, Cyborg. You did it. You did fantastic. And the cleanup, like, we're doing that. How are you doing, though? Are you okay? Is everything cool with you? And he's like, how am I doing? I don't even know. So we see just little follow-ups. Magnus and other people who are taking over, they're getting put back together. They're all getting fixed. Cleanup on the Technosapiens is happening. Everyone from the alternate world returns to their world. And Batman's like, what about the ones that got away? And he's like, they're somewhere in the multiverse. You know, Cyborg's got to build up that rogues gallery somehow. Technosapiens won. So at that point, he disconnects. Silas comes in. And he's like, oh, son, we did it. We all did it together or whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's great. And Sarah's like, oh, it's okay. Your secret is safe with us. And he's like, my secret? What are you, huh? And she's like, oh, that you're a superhero. Ah, ha, ha. And they all have a laugh. We then go to Bobby, who is one of the guys who was affected by the Technosapien virus, and he lost his arm and all that. And he's like, I just gotta, look, I've been through a lot. I gotta go through my own self-work here. I just wanted to be whole. And we see that all of a sudden the bandages on his arm start unraveling. And much like Cyborg's able to regenerate himself, he gets his arm back. Happy ending for him. And our final page here is Cyborg. Vic is sitting on the stairs of his house. Smokey the cat is okay. And he's like, hey, Smokey, can I show you something? And he's like, I'm not ready for anyone else to know about this, but I can share it with you. And he transforms. He's able to transform on the fly over to his purely human self. And Smokey just meows. And he's like, thanks. I knew I could count on you to understand. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to real quick flip through this and see if I can figure out Sarah's actual name. I feel like it's Sarah. I feel like it has to be, but I don't know. Regardless, it's an okay issue. Like, it's not... It is Sarah, by the way. It's not a poorly constructed issue by any means. I think that it does a good job of like, okay, you know, we wrapped it up, we did a thing. It makes sense for Cyborg and these villains and like hacking the OS. I don't dislike any of that stuff. It's just how bare bones it feels. And I hesitate to say that's a bad thing inherently, because like I am personally of the opinion that like I think decompressing comics, you know, not the greatest thing for the wallet, but for storytelling, I like it. I like having these moments, being able to sit and being able to like really explore the emotions behind them, and like having the regeneration process take like 4 full pages, and it's like double page spreads, and it's very much drawn out. I like that. It's a solid moment. I think like if you're thinking of this from a cinematic viewpoint, it really does drive home this like everyone's out looking for him, and it takes time to be able to like put them all back together again. But if I'm looking at like, okay, we spent 6 issues, what actually happened here? I would say this entire storyline could be done very easily without compressing it that much into like 4 issues. I don't think that we had 6 issues of story here. And that's including the fact that between issue 1 and 2, it feels like we skipped 17 different issues. So I don't know. It's so much hit and miss here where I like this ending, but the storyline as a whole has just been a little weak for me. I'm going to say it still gets a 7. It's still good, but it just comes with like 4 asterisks, where I don't think the arc as a whole really gets up to that 7 mark. I think this is probably on the weaker side of things, but you know, we still got another 6 issues to go, and I think Marv Wolfman's writing like 3 of those, so see how that turns out. Justice League 3001, number 7, written by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, art by Chris Batista. So last issue, Superman's head exploded. It was an android race or something called the Scullions. They showed up. They blew up Superman's head. So this issue picks up with a bunch more Scullions have arrived. I think that was at the end of last issue as well. Diana's knocked on her ass. Flash is trying to get her to wake up, and the Scullions are like, oh, you're going to die with her. And then in comes Supergirl at the last second to save the day. Starts knocking around all the Scullions, saying like, Flash, we gotta go. Diana's not dead. She's just unconscious. Grab her. We're gonna go. And it's like, wait, but if they could murder Superman, what chance do the rest of us have? And just like, shut up. Just shut up. We're going. We gotta go now. She's like, I'm scared. And she's like, well, tough. You're the Flash. You got to learn to do it. So she grabs hold of Flash and Wonder Woman, and we see that all of this is being told by Terry, the Flash, after the fact. It's a recording saying like her thoughts of what happened there. And she starts sobbing. She's like, pause recording. Oh God. And Diana comes in saying like, why are you reliving this moment? This seems like a horrible thing to do. And she's like, oh, well, after the great disaster, we lost so much of our history, which is why it was so hard for us to rebuild the Justice League when like we were taking all your DNA and stuff. We lost so much of our history. I want to try to preserve this. I want to have our stories recorded so people forever can know what happened to us, what happened to him. And she's like, okay, well, Superman's dead, and I get that, like, you really liked him, but can we not? And Diana's like, yeah, no, look, the Scullions are still attacking tons of planets. We didn't solve that problem. It's still happening, and we're just here on Ganesha 11, licking our wounds and trying to be helped out here. So he's basically saying like, yeah, well, I'm going to keep on recording this stuff. I can't believe you're so cold. And she's like, I'm pragmatic. It's not a lack of feeling. I miss him too. And so they start making their way down the hallway, and they're just like talking about, we shouldn't have some grief here, but it can't get in the way of the mission and all that stuff. And then we run into Supergirl, and Supergirl's like, well, there's a war. Like, Scullions are doing their thing. We got to get out there. We got to fight off those Scullions. Wonder Woman, I wonder, would you have died long before if I hadn't fought off the Scullions? And stuff like that. And she basically just like, she's somewhere between we have to get out there and do that and like it's a suicide mission, but we still have to do it anyway. So at that point, Flash offers up like, oh, would you like to help me with my recording? Like, your memories would also be helpful since you came from that time. Supergirl's like, no, not a chance. I'm out of here. So at that point, we see that Supergirl checks in on Fire and Ice, and turns out their Justice Buddies thing over on the other side of town went through the exact same Scullion invasion. And they were just like, yeah, look, we were there. And like, Fire spent multiple decades and centuries in hell. And this was worse. This was worse than hell. So they get an explanation of the story of Barry Allen, the Flash, was just immediately killed. It then started to attack Ice. Fire got her out of there at the last second. Green Lantern got squashed in the process. Not Guy Gardner Green Lantern, but Hal Jordan Green Lantern. And like Ice is saying like the droids were unprepared for us. For some reason, it was prepared for all of these other ones, all these other heroes or whatever. But for us, it didn't expect us. And they're like, okay, what about Booster Gold and Blue Beetle? They were on your team. And it's like, well, they're not a part of the story. Don't worry about them. They're elsewhere. But we didn't see them die directly. So at that point, Guy Gardner walks in, who, of course, at this point, for anyone not paying attention, is female, but with the mind of original Guy Gardner, which is causing all sorts of problems. And he's basically saying like, oh, hey, I got the meta disc thing that just is a healing pod, more or less. She's like, oh, you can have that back. Anyway, just so you're aware, Supergirl, the new girl Batman and the Bat robot thing, it's currently tearing apart our gateway jumping system. So Supergirl runs off, and then Guy, Fire, and Ice basically just have an argument because Guy's being all flippant, and Fire and Ice are like, we just lost so many team members, and like, we nearly died. How can you be so flippant? And Guy kind of plays it off for a little bit until she's eventually like, maybe this is how I deal with things. You ever consider that? It blew his damn head off, and I was standing right next to him. Like, yeah, I'm a little bit messed up here. But regardless, the big thing that seems to really impact a Guy was that when they were making their escape, Batman grabbed hold of Guy and says, look, I know you want revenge, but you got to go now. And Guy recognized that Batman was actually scared. And seeing Batman scared was enough to put the fear of God into Guy. So at that point, Ice says, hey, I know how you must feel. And Guy backhands Ice and says, nobody knows how I feel. Nobody. And then like storms off. Fire's about to kick some ass, but Ice is like, hey, no, it's fine. Guy's got issues, but Guy would never hit me. Whoever just hit me, that was someone else. So we go back over to Terry and Diana, and the whole place is just dead wherever they're eating. Like nobody's around, and obviously because war is all throughout the galaxy wherever they're at now. And it's like, okay, well, what should we do? Like, what can we possibly do in this situation here? And they just start talking. They just start going through it, saying like, oh, look, I'm always going to be your friend. I owe you a life debt now, Terry, because you saved my life. And Terry's like, no, we don't need it. He's like, no, seriously. And I want you to know, I remember Superman's death during the initial entanglement, but I'm not sure I remember what happened afterwards. If it's okay, can you tell me? And so they continue talking about the event. And it's like, yeah, Wonder Woman jumped in. She just started beating the ever-loving hell out of a bunch of them. Eventually, she got taken down. The whole thing that happened at the beginning where Flash tried to grab her body, Supergirl came in, and Batman's repairing the gateway, trying to jump out. And he's like, I've set it to go to Ganesha 11. It's a safe place that Ariel Masters had. It was one of her safe houses when she was on the run. She trusted me with that information. Now we're going to use it. And it's, at the very least, it's going to buy us a little bit of time. And Supergirl's like, okay, good. Stop talking and do it. So she looks around, sees the fighting's continuing on. The Scullions are approaching, and as soon as Batman gets the gate open, Supergirl just starts throwing people through it. Fire, Ice, Guy's forced to go through it. Terry is like, wait, no, hold on. Clark's body's out there. We have to go get Clark's body. And Guy's like, no, it's not going to happen. And Batman just pushes her through regardless. So now they're on the other side. What's her name? The Batgirl, Batman, whatever goes through. And then she, because she's techie, says, wait a minute, the Scullions can just follow their way through. The only way that they're not going to is if someone destroys the gate on the other side. And Terry realizes Batman's going to be the one to do it. He's always going to make the sacrifice play. So she's about to go back through, but then Supergirl comes out, top speed, and Terry says that apparently Batman had some kryptonite in his belt. He picked it up, and that's what allowed him to get Supergirl to go through. So she doesn't make the sacrifice play. So Diana's like, yeah, all right, that's Batman for you. Prepared for all sorts of situations, and he did all that stuff without superpowers. He's the greatest hero of them all. And they basically just say, like, yeah, Batman was awesome. He was great, and he ended up dying there. I wish I could have seen him. I bet he died with a smile on his face. And they just kind of reminisce over the fact that, like, yeah, the whole Justice League just died. Like, Superman, Batman, Hal, Barry, all of them are gone. And then Terry's like, wait a minute. We have their DNA. Let's go to Cadmus World. We could go do it. Like, we can go back there to the DNA vaults. And she's like, no, Cadmus is gone. The Scullions destroyed it. There's no hope of resurrecting. Everyone who's dead is staying dead. So Supergirl eventually catches up with the Batgirl woman. I wish they said her name. They literally never say it once in here. But she's basically saying, like, why did you tear apart the gate? Now we'll never get off this planet. And she's like, I'm smart enough that I integrated it into my suit. Now we don't have to go to a gate to leave anymore. We can have a gate with us whenever we want. I'm the gateway girl now. So at that point, Supergirl is like, okay, look, you're not part of this team. Looks like it's Tina. They say it one time, Tina. And just like, hey, you've only been here for a week or two. You don't get to be the boss. You get to belong and I don't. That doesn't make any sense. So Supergirl is just trying to pressure her, like, just put back the gate. We're doing that thing. And she's like, nah, I'm a direct descendant of the Wayne family. I'm in. And Supergirl's like, fine, whatever. Just don't mess anything up. So Supergirl goes outside of the facility. She looks out into space, has a moment to herself. And then we see Terry, when she returns to her room, her suit's been laid out and Supergirl's there waiting, saying, all right, look, we got to go out there. We can stay here licking our wounds, or you can come out and join us, because the Justice League that you knew is dead. It's time to start over. New Justice League. All-female Justice League. I mean, I'll admit, I didn't see it coming as of like 3 issues ago. After that, it was pretty heavily telegraphed. I'm down with it. I think, we're wrapping. It's an alternate timeline. It's doing its own thing. This doesn't have any reason to upset anybody. And I think it does a good job of setting up this threat here, of saying, like, no, the Scullions are a terrifying force to be reckoned with. And yeah, it's made them a threat. It killed Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, all that stuff. It makes it a very, very interesting villain to have to go up against. Counterpoint, what are we doing with the whole Lois Lane being an evil thing and inside Ariel Master's body? I very much remember that still being a thing, and now it's just gone. Are we coming back to that? Is that going to be a thing we do? Because we're now just saying with this Scully and stuff. So I'm sure we'll get there, but it's weird that we just took this hard pivot so quickly here. This issue is kind of just like a reformation sort of thing. It's just getting all the ducks in a row, saying this is the new Justice League. It's not bad in the way it does that. I'm going to give it a 7. It's a high 7, but not quite up to a 7.5. So, yeah, we'll see where the rest of this goes. It's not got much longer. I think only, 5 more issues? So we'll see where it goes. But it's interesting, and it's taking itself more seriously than it has for the entire rest of the run, which I'm grateful for. Batman and Robin Eternal number 12, written by Snyder, Tynion, and Brisson, art by Javier Pina and Goran Sudzuka. So, last issue was a whole bunch of mental, psychedelic backstory to Cassandra being relayed to Harper through the sculptor. And then Dick Grayson jumped in and said, all right, now tell me about Batman. And then everything went to hell. So this issue picks up where they're still arguing about, I need you to let me in. And then the telepathy through the hypnos causes a bit of weirdness. But Dick basically tells Harper, keep an eye on me and do not pull me out until I get what I need. And we see they literally are fighting each other, Sculptor and Dick, in the mental space. And she goes running through a door, and Grayson follows suit, and this is where we get the beginning of the story. And she's like, she's a child, and she's in a room that's just like soaked with blood. And she's like, all right, if you want the full story, then you need to know my full story. It starts with me back in the day. And she's a crying child. We see David Kane is there as also like a child or a teenager at the very least. And Mother is there. And Sculptor, like all of her friends or whatever are dead. It's a bloody room, all because of David Kane. And Mother's like, oh, David Kane here is my Adam. You shall be my Eve for this new world. I know about your ability of telepathy to influence people, and that's why I'm using you. So we see that she's brought basically into a lap of luxury. Mother treats her very well, and she's like, oh, my little Sculptor, you're destined to do fantastic things. You're going to be a big sister. Are you ready for that? And she's like, yes, Mother. So we see that she's trained to do certain things, but David Kane, first and foremost, is trained to be the one that causes the trauma. That's his whole thing, and he enjoys doing it. He enjoys going out and causing families to get into car accidents and such like that. He terrorizes these children, and then he pulls them out, and he's meant to go and bring them a better life. And she says, it's a part of the process that's needed to happen. But we were never meant to derive any sort of pleasure from it. It just had to happen. David did not care about that part. He absolutely derived pleasure from it. So we see when the children have gone through this tragedy, they're brought before the Sculptor. Their minds are now a bit more loosey-goosey, able to be changed because of that. And so they are scrubbing certain aspects, their mind erasing stuff, but they're always leaving that idea of the tragedy there. And she's like, I let them know that they were loved and that they were, taken away from that they lost that thing. And importantly, she pushes them to be better, to turn them into children that Mother would be proud of. So at that point, if they failed, Mother would discard them, and that's why she always pushes them to do their very best. So at that point, then they go into martial arts training, hacking, stuff like that. And it turns out that they are basically set throughout all of society. And Grayson's like, I'm not buying this. I don't believe all of this stuff. How can you justify being a part of this? And now what? You feel regret all of a sudden? And she's like, I just want you to know what you're up against here. There are lawyers and politicians, heads of industry. Like, she can activate sleeper agents at any point, and it's going to tear everything down. They are weapons to be used, and that's all they are. And she basically says, you've got to save them because Mother is developing a new method that doesn't need trauma. And because you're hot on her tail and she's got this whole extra thing going on of things that she doesn't need anymore because she's building a new type of thing, she's going to kill all of her children. They are all at risk here. So you need to get rid of that. You need to like save them or else it's not going to go well for anybody there. And she basically says, I know what I did. I played a part in here. I'm not going to downplay it, but it's abuse. Like that's what it is. When you get down to the bottom of it, it's abuse. And I helped them do this to give them a chance of survival under Mother. But yeah, it's something that we need to be able to help them then. And Dick's like, okay, then help me. Like, come with us, do what I can. And she's like, no, I can't. I just can't. But I'll tell you what you need to know here and now. And we go into a deeper memory, this time the Batman one, the one that Harper caught just a little bit of. So they're going down deep into the cave, and we see Mother showing surveillance footage from when Dick attacked that first night. And she's like, you do understand this is all Dick's fault, right? Like, I want to be clear on that. I fed some information to Bruce Wayne, and then not even a day later, Batman's sidekick attacked my operation. Like, was that your plan? I doubt it, because you're smarter than that. This kid is a liability. This is all Dick Grayson's fault that I figured out that you are Bruce Wayne. So if you want someone to help you save Gotham, let me get you someone who was built to do that, who was made to have that happen. And Grayson's listening to all this happen, like, she set me up. This was all, Batman wouldn't dare. And then Batman says, you're right. I've tried ignoring Dick's mistakes, and I haven't been any of the better for it. So he's not the partner I hoped for. And Grayson's like, oh my, he wouldn't say that. He would never say, there's no way. And she's like, oh, fantastic. Well, here's the thing. I've already got someone in mind. All you need to do is I'll dispatch Orphan. We'll get the training underway. And in a couple of years, it'll be yours. And he's like, no, you're not going to use Orphan. If this is going to be someone who is going to be my sidekick, my ward, my partner, I'm going to be the one that causes their tragedy. I'm going to be the one that kills their parents or whatever. And Grayson's like, that's rule number 1. He does not break rule number 1. And Mother is like, I mean, I don't typically let that happen, but I mean, you're Batman, so yeah, sure, all right. Well, are you ready to kill for Mother, Bruce? And he says yes. And Grayson turns to the sculptor, just being like, this isn't what it can't be what it is. And she's like, I told you wouldn't like this. Is Batman betrayed you? You know, search your feelings. You know it to be true. And she basically says it's Mother's influence. Like, don't blame him. It's all Mother. So Grayson comes in. We see that he's got a gun, like smoking or whatever like that. And he tries pulling at Batman and like yanking at him, being like, what did you do, Batman? And Batman turns around, he's this grotesque, hideous monster. And he's like, you're a disappointment. You failed me, Grayson. So Grayson shoots up screaming. We're back in the real world. Harper's like, what did you see? And he's like, I need a minute. Jesus Christ. We got to go, though. The kids are in danger. We got to do that stuff. And Sculptor, you're coming with us. And she's like, no, I am not. I've given you everything you need. You got to go save Cassandra and the rest of the children. Goodbye. And then the whole house starts to disappear. It was all just a telepathic illusion. And Harper's like, son of a bitch. This is the very first time I go in to a villain's hideout, and it turns out it was all just a dream or a mirage. How do we know anything that was just said actually is true? And Grayson's like, if it weren't true, this entire story would fall apart. So we just kind of need to assert that everything we just heard is actually true, and therefore we need to hurry up because we might already be too late. And we cut to down in the nursery. We see there are a bunch of dead kids, all of them bloodied up and laying strewn across the ground. And out of the puddles of blood, we follow a trail of footprints to a hole in the wall of the nursery. And sitting there curled up in the hole is a covered in blood Cassandra. Oh no, Cassandra, what have you done? Obviously, this is some sort of plan for Batman. Like, there's no way he did it. You know, it's obviously just something where it's like, no. He definitely did it. There's no way around this. He absolutely did it. Oh, whoops. Turns out he didn't do it. Like, I'm waiting for it. But just because you see it coming does not mean it cannot be an enjoyable ride. Like, you absolutely can have fun with the idea of, okay, why is it that happened? What is the larger mystery at play here? How much does Grayson buy into this disbelief of his father figure, of like, did he actually manage to do it? And on top of that, the art stuff, it's good. It's very solidly well done. I like the way the characters are drawn here, and the way we do kind of a little bit more of psychedelic stuff in the telepathic realm or whatever. So no, I really don't have anything that negative to say about this issue. It was another good one, same as the last one. Yeah, it's answering questions while still providing new mysteries, which is a great way to keep me engaged with your story, instead of me just either A, feeling like there's nothing for me to have to worry about because I have all the answers, or B, not being able to latch on to anything because I feel like you're never going to answer anything. We're 12 issues in. I needed answers. You did, but you gave me new questions. Good job. So I'm going to say this is a 7.5. Very well done issue. Looking forward to the rest of it. And yeah, we're about halfway done with this, so we'll see what all comes out by the end. And that's it. That is all the comics that were put out by DC Comics this December 23rd, 2015. And next week, we have a fifth week, except it is not an easy fifth week. No, because there were 12 comics that came out this week, the week I just finished talking about, but there's also 12 comics coming out next week. And those also involve annuals, so we may as well be sitting at like 15 comics coming out next week, which, you know, it's not like there's anything going on. It's not like it's the holiday season, the busiest time of year. It's not like I want to try to relax or anything like that. No. Anyway, let's talk about what comics are actually on that list. So we have, in alphabetical order here, Black Canary, Dr. Fate, The Flash, Harley Quinn / Power Girl, Justice League, Omega Men, Superman, Superman / Wonder Woman, Superman / Wonder Woman, but also an annual this time, Superman, Lois and Clark, and then Wonder Woman. Gets really confusing there at the end when we have Superman, 2 issues of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman. Oh, and also the weekly series Batman and Robin Eternal, because that never pauses. That's a weekly series. That's always going to be there. Anyway, all that's coming up. In terms of annuals, I think the only ones there are Superman and Superman, Wonder Woman. Quick look. Yep, that's it. And out of those, I think Superman is a Savage Dawn thing. The normal issue of Superman Wonder Woman might be, but I'm not positive. I think the annual is its own unique thing, though, so whatever, I'll figure it out next week. That's a problem for future me. For current me, I'm imploring you that if you have anything that you would like to say about any comics I just talked about, will talk about, or anything at all, go ahead and put them in the comment section down beneath this YouTube video. But if you're not watching the YouTube video, it's probably like mid-March by the time you're hearing this episode, because I'm really bad about uploading the audio versions, because I don't have access to that website, and I rely on someone else to do it for me. So hey, audio person, go over to the YouTube channel and put it there. But if you really can't, we have a Discord, we have a subreddit, we have a Patreon. You can put it on any of those locations, and I will most likely, eventually, probably see it. So thank you very much for watching, listening. I've just consumed this podcast. Enjoy your Christmas. I mean, we're a day beforehand for most people. I don't know when you're particularly listening to this. It might be March, but if it is before Christmas, enjoy it. Have fun with it, because recession's coming down the pipeline, and this might be the best one you get for a while. I don't know why I went so dark with that, but it's just where my mind is at. Anyway, again, thank you so much. Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, and always try to remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.